Dzień dobry Państwu, ja nazywam się Michał Kokoszkiewicz, jestem dziennikarzem magazynu Wiadomości Handlowej i będę miał dla Państwa tą wyjątkową przyjemność poprowadzić to dzisiejsze webinarium, podczas którego porozmawiamy sobie o kanale convenience, sklepach convenience, porozmawiamy sobie nie tylko o tym, co jest w Polsce, ale także międzynarodowo, bo mamy dzisiaj gości także z innych krajów. Za chwilę zaczynamy, dosłownie, ale teraz jeszcze mała autopromocja, dosłownie za minutkę wracamy. Szanowni Państwo, to dzisiejsze spotkanie będzie prowadzone w języku angielskim, więc pozwólcie Państwo, że teraz przestawię się na ten język. So, welcome to everyone and thank you for joining us. Today we're going to talk about convenience stores, the future of convenience stores to be even closer to the client and its needs. That's the name of our discussion, and we would like to look at this channel from different perspectives, technology, consumers' needs, supply chain, building the offer, and many others. We will try to make some forecast to this. We will try to make a forecast for this channel too. But first, let me introduce our guests. Victor Paterno, CEO 7-Eleven Philippines, Vice Chairman of the National Association of Convenience Stores. Hello and welcome. Good afternoon, I should say. Can we see Mr. Paterno? He's not. So Thomas Grayson, Executive Vice President, OmniStream. Good afternoon, sir. You're in Singapore, right?
Yes, good afternoon. Thank you, Michael, for having me here.
It's a pleasure. Adam Manikowski, Managing Director, Żabka Polska. Good morning from Poznań, Poland.
Yes, hello everyone. Hi.
Krzysztof Łagowski, Head of Convenience at Carrefour Poland, Warsaw, Poland, I suppose. Good morning.
Hi, guys.
It's great to see you, gentlemen. This is discussion, so you can argue, you can disagree with each other, you can even clash on subjects that we will be talking about. So it's all permitted. But I'd like to start from consumers' needs and the change that is happening in this model. And my first question is to Mr. Adam Manikowski. Sir, what does a consumer of convenience stores expect from this channel, both if it comes to the assortment side as well as equipment, and how does Żabka respond to these needs of these customers?
Well, we need to first specify what's in our channel, what is the shopping mission. And for convenience, it's impulse shopping mission. And this is around this mission, how we build assortment, how we build the in-store experience for customers. So what I would like to highlight is that in this shopping mission and in this channel, the price is not the most important, but the most important is the shopping experience which we provide to the customers. So if you look at the customer's need, and especially now where we have the pandemic environment for some time, the customers, they have even less time. Yes, so we say in our channel that the time is the new currency. So what the consumer is expecting is that we'll be able to make the shopping very quickly, but also in a very safe environment. So what we are focusing a lot, there are a few pillars. I think that one of the most important area is to make sure that we have the shopping done very seamlessly and very fast. So in our stores, on average, from entering to exiting the store, the customer needs less than 100 seconds, which is very important from this perspective. Then, what is extremely important is to make sure that convenience store, Żabka store, is something more than the store only. So in our stores, you can not only shop and buy things for daily need, but you can also buy something to drink on a spot, or some food to go, or something to eat immediately. But you can also use lots of services, and those services like paying the bills, or taking out the cash, or receiving the parcel, and and much more are extremely important to fulfill the overall shopping mission. And then the another pillar is to make sure that our format is flexible enough to be able to be as close to customers as possible, because the proximity and convenience channel is extremely important. So what we are doing, we created a Galaxy format, which is extremely flexible. So right now we have different Żabka store formats, which allows us to open our stores in the locations which we couldn't open before. We have also lots of innovative formats. Like I would like to mention our unmanned store, which is Żabka store, where you don't have any checkouts. You just use your app. Yes, you enter the store, you take the product, and you go up. You do seamlessly and very fast your shopping trip. We have the store open at the petrol station. We have the Mobi Żabka, which are the mobile store where you can open during the big events like concerts or festivals. And we also have our Eco Store, which is the fully 100% ecological zero emission store. And why I'm mentioning this, because through this we are also learning and taking the solutions to our new stores. And I think that the most important thing in when we discuss the convenience channel is to be able to react very fast and to be flexible. And all those formats, once you have the open format, you can adapt to the changing current customers' needs. So I think that from this perspective, it allows you to be very close to the customers. And last thing is, of course, the assortment. And assortment is creating the uniqueness. And this is different assortment than on a discount channel, because this assortment should reflect the impulse mission, which I mentioned before. That's why such a big focus on a Żabka Cafe, on a quick meal solutions, on a food to go. Plus, you should be able to differentiate those assortment to the segment of the customers. And in Żabka, we are managing 2,500 planograms, which shows that we are able really to adapt from one hand being traditional store close to customer, on another hand with a big input of new technology helping us to have proper equipment and proper range in each location.
We're going to talk about it, about assortment later, but now I'd like to ask Krzysztof Wagowski from Carrefour. So how does Carrefour respond to this changing consumers' needs, and what kind of changes were for you expected, or maybe one of them were unexpected if it comes to the convenience channel consumers? How do you see that?
For sure, I fully agree with Adam that customer shop less often, and the visits are more planned, and they spend less time. What we observe that sales are shifting to smaller towns. We are observing the changing place of shopping. So in the pre-COVID time, the store choice were influenced by work commuting routes. In the COVID time, stores choice narrowed to the home proximity, and right now, if I may call post-COVID time, there is a hybrid store choice as home work routines settle and differs. We observe, if I may add, from what we observed during the last year, the private label achieved more than twice as much sales growth year on year as branded products. So this is the area where Carrefour has a strong competence, and because we are offering to our franchisers, including our convenience store, nearly 3,000 products. I think what is characteristic for a Polish market, and it is price and promotions are extremely important for Poles. So main factor for choosing a store is to offer good quality product at good price, and I may say that COVID doesn't change it at all.
So we got to know Polish convenience store consumers. So let's get to know the Filipino consumers. I think Victor Paterno is here with us. Hello. And this is my question for you, sir. So who is the consumer of a convenience store on the Philippines? And are his needs different from consumers in other countries? Or maybe there are some similarities? How do you see that?
Yes. Hi, thank you for inviting me. It's a pleasure and nice to meet my colleagues. I've never been to Eastern Europe. I have looked at convenience in Western Europe somewhat, and it's
maybe
quite
something that
it's quite different. I think we think of convenience as a very small format, whereas in Western Europe, at least, it seems to be larger, almost small groceries. So in the Philippines, it's very much like the 7-Elevens you see around the world. Heavy focus on snacking. Maybe essentials is like 15%, 20%. And during COVID, you saw that rise. And I think everybody else I've talked to in the classic convenience store world has said, well, we need to bulk up on essentials. If you look at that model, though, for emerging markets, there are two large and very successful players that follow it. CP All in Thailand and OXXO in Mexico. They are both like 90% market share. Huge. And because they meet both occasions, proximity, shopping close to home, and snacking impulse. So that's a model we're transitioning to. So Adam was saying 2,500 planograms. Wow. Hats off. That's hard. So we've been doing variable planograms with a partner, OmniStream, out of Singapore. It's also hard, but it's probably easier than managing 2,500 planograms. We also have planograms, but really only one per category. In different sizes, and the stores mix and match.
Okay, so my next question to Thomas Grayson. Thomas, do you see any changes in customers' behavior if it comes, of course, convenience channel, or how have customers' expectations changed for recent 10 years, for example, in your opinion?
No, thank you. I think there's been definite changes. COVID has brought a lot of changes in shopper behavior, but even before COVID, I think convenience stores have been starting to pivot more towards that mini market formats, for quite a while. We saw, a good 15, 20 years ago, depending on country, that the hypermarkets, supermarkets were very popular at that stage. But since probably the last 10 years, the popularity of large format stores has started to wane a little bit. And ultimately, people are looking for proximity a lot more versus what they were in the past. So I think I agree with the sentiment that the frequency of shopping has decreased due to COVID. So that's one of the big impacts that COVID has had. However, I think the importance of convenience stores has grown. And I think the popularity of convenience stores has grown. And I would second the sentiment of Victor and what we see in places like whether it's Indonesia, Thailand, Mexico, and quite a few other places around the world where shoppers are actually looking for an offer which delivers to both that convenience, and depending on location, that convenience can be different. So in some locations, convenience simply can mean to come in and buy a snack and a drink. In other locations, it can mean to actually be able to purchase a hot meal, which can be eaten either inside or on the go. Whilst in other locations, convenience stores can mean that it's close to my house and I can actually do that ultimately weekly shop there, or potentially, every couple of days I can top up on my necessities that I need in order to do my, whatever it may be inside the house. So I think the ability to predict what that shopper behavior is, given a specific location of every store, is the key to success moving into the future.
Yeah, so consumer, the convenience channel consumer is different if it comes to the location of the shop, if it comes to the country. But I think we can agree that digital technology is something which is very important in convenience store. And I'd like to go on to this point now, because technology transformation is the area where convenience channel is the leader of the market. And I see it in Poland. So my question to Mr. Victor Paterno, because I read that you as a company determine yourself as a data-driven retail. What does it mean, and how do you use data to build your position on the market? On which areas do you use the data the most? How do you see that?
Well, I guess digital and data for us are two different things. Data for digital is actually pretty easy because you have very few SKUs. But we we've been using it a lot for the supply chain. The Philippines has one of the most challenging, certainly the most challenged supply chain environment in the 7-Eleven world. We're an archipelago. We have 3,000 stores and 13 DCs. So keeping those shelves full is a challenge, and we use a lot of analytics for that, and collaborative planning and all of that stuff. But yes, we did use a lot of data for determining optimal assortments, but on a per store level, that's off the charts hard, and that's why we outsourced it. For digital, we actually have the highest penetration. We have the largest number of downloads for any offline retailer in the Philippines. We're not the largest offline retailer, but we have 5x the next guy. And so we invested in that early on. And that is driven by two things: payments. So we take in something like 5x our GMV, our sales in payment GMV. A lot of it recently has been wallet pay-ins. Philippines is 70% unbanked, so you have to digitize your cash. And the convenience store is the preferred place to do that. The other is pickup, which I believe it seems to be that I'd love to hear what you're doing in Poland on that, because again, that last mile and that truck that goes every day, huge logistical advantage. I think in Taiwan, 50% of e-commerce packages are picked up in convenience stores.
And what kind of key technological implementations have you already done in recent years, on recent months? Is there anything that you can say about, and what kind of technology, in your opinion, will be the most important ones if it comes to the convenience channel in the future?
I think, one of the things that we have rolled out, just this year, we started rolling out recycling ATMs, again, because we take in so much GMV. And these are ATMs with bill readers, high-speed bill readers. And it's allowed us to go to, this is now like the hottest new product that customers are asking for, again, because is quite unbanked, and a lot of remote areas don't have ATMs. They have to go to we know because we have to drive an hour to the nearest bank. But as far as technology itself, it's not, there's nothing that sophisticated. Our app, we have Click Grocery that runs on PWA and all of that stuff. It's not so much the technology that's hard, it's the supply chain.
Okay, so we're going to talk about supply chain later, but now my question to Mr. Adam Manikowski. You mentioned about this new format that you develop now, and I'd like to ask you about some conclusions. Do you have? So maybe do you have any conclusions after launching this format, especially if it comes to the technology side?
Yes, so technology is extremely important when you say about proximity, impulse shopping mission, being close to customers. We are opening currently more than 1,000 stores per year, and without heavily investing in AI, in technology, in the teams, it wouldn't be possible. Yes, and the fact is that in Żabka, more than 15% of the team is working only focusing on technology. Is the technology technology teams preparing the solutions, technological solutions for different areas in the company. And you asked about the formats. We wouldn't be able not only to test but to open so many stores if for example, not AI, who is helping us to choose the proper location and with a 99% of confidence predict the future sales when we are opening the new stores. Victor mentioned about the planograms. We wouldn't be able, without technology, and I manage more than 2,000 planograms, we wouldn't be able to adapt our assortment and price segmentation to the special location, because from convenience perspective, you cannot approach every customer in the same way. Yes, the power of Żabka and the power of different formats which we are opening allows us to target and to get to the customers in different locations, because the customers in the city center in the downtown of Warsaw is very different than the customer on the eastern side of Poland in a small village, or on the campus, or in the office building. So technology is the enabler. Yes, technology is the enabler really to fulfill and to implement convenience impulse mission, which also later on, and the new formats and technology allows to make the customers more loyal. Because when we say about the impulse, the challenge is how to repeat the impulse mission. And to create the loyalty, we invested a lot in a customer app, which right now has 6 million users. It's one of the biggest in Poland.
I'm one of them.
Which helps us to make the hyper personalization in real time of the offer, which at the same time allows us to increase the impulse shopping mission. Yes. Mm-hmm. And from format perspective, I think that a very important thing is not only how you create the new format, but what kind of value this format is delivering for customers. And you ask about the learnings from different formats, which I mentioned before. I think that the key learning is that you need to have the very flexible basic format base, which is for us the Galaxy. Once you have this flexibility and you are able to adapt it depending on the location or external environment, then with the format you are very successful. But in order to have this flexibility in what concerns the base, you need to heavily invest in technology, and it's not a one-off, but it's the mindset. It's the mindset of the company to remember and to be aware by all the teams that this is the key enabler for adjusting the flexibility of the format.
Mm-hmm. But you also mentioned that you developed your super ecological store in Warsaw. So my question is, what kind of solution that have been implemented there found or will find its place in other stores of Żabka? I mean, of course, I don't know, connected floor or maybe quantum dot and stuff like that. What's the future of it?
Yes, and this is interesting because this is the store where we actually implemented everything what was in the world in the market to be implemented in convenience stores from the ecological solutions. And always there are questions: how many of those stores are we going to open? This store is a kind of laboratory where we are checking what kind of solutions are working best, and then we are rolling them out. I think that worth to mention is, of course, the kinetical floor or quantum dot, or the newest cooling system, or super power charging station for electric cars, and the special grass around the store. I think that interesting thing is that if you ask that, because there are lots of questions, ask how the customer changed during the pandemic. During this time, what accelerated a lot is the awareness of being eco-friendly. And what we can see in this store when we are checking the NPS of the customers, or the satisfaction of our shoppers, is that it's double-digit in percentage-wise more than average, which shows that the ecological approach is extremely important from the perspective of what kind of brands the customers shop, but also where the customers shop. That's why if you look at our activities in this field, in the CSR field, we have such a strong focus on being the eco-friendly and on supporting the responsible customers' behavior. And this story is kind of the acceleration and a lens which allows us to see also the future trends, which we are translating to the overall network.
Yeah, you, for example, cooperating with Danone to develop your Ecomat machines. But I got a question to Krzysztof Rogowski. Carrefour Group has recently released that it's going to increase its spendings on technology for over 50%. There's a plan to cooperate with Facebook too. So my question is, how can it impact on Polish convenience channel? Do you see any area of this impact? How does it look like?
Okay, when speaking on digital strategy, we should keep in mind that Carrefour doesn't stand on one foot. I mean that apart from convenience, other engines are hyper, supermarket, and super cash and carry format. This is the unique strength of Carrefour, which we will call it internally omni-channeling, that it's offering customer the possibility of shopping in various formats, from small convenience store to through supermarkets. It is demanding from managerial point of view, but offers a tremendous impact on store traffic and basket value. And what does it mean for convenience? When planning our activities, including digital, for example, we look for synergies with other formats. And the digital action plan you are asking about consists of, I would guess, 3 priorities. The first one is to accelerate the development of the electronic food trade platform. The second one is advanced analytics, and the third one, I think, further transformation of traditional distribution operation through the digitalization. And as for point 1, I mean the acceleration of the development of electronic food trade platform, for sure we are going to accelerate the development of the click and collect and express deliveries, I mean to up to 3 hours, to strengthen the position on the home delivery sector. We are also launching the possibility of ordering to our convenience stores, of ordering directly from hypermarkets. Today in Warsaw, other big cities in the second stage, it significantly improves time to delivery to convenience store, and also it allows us to deliver small increments, which are critical in a convenient business. As for point 2, we are going to leverage the advanced analytics thanks to substantial digital assets. We are really proud of it, of having more than 30 million downloads of our Carrefour application. There is, I guess, 800 million visits to digital platform, and we have 8 billion transactions in Europe's largest data lake. And our tool is called Carrefour Links platform, and it enables us to conduct marketing campaign in all areas, I mean website, application, stores, and to comprehensively measure the actual impact from visibility to sales. And finally, the point number 3, which involves the transformation of distribution operation. So today, the IT system is modernized, I think unified, 30% of which have already been migrated to the cloud, and by 26, 100% of resources are going to be in the cloud. As the result, we increase the efficiency of our systems and reduce the time to market of new services and applications. This is the new strategy is really going about adopting a data-centric, digital-first approach, which radically is changing processes, including pricing, inventory building, business forecasting, I think logistic and procurement flows, as well as admin processes. So we believe that it will have a real and tangible positive effect on NPS, revenue, and operating profit. When it comes to the cooperation with Meta, so we are also going to boost customer relation, digital advertising, I think local communication, and social commerce, and this is going to be via using proprietary Meta platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, WhatsApp, and Messenger, and Workplace. So at the end of the day, this is what is important for convenience. I think that it will transform to the development of personalized a catalog or digitalize, I think, promo activities, also extremely personalized to the specific segment of our customers.
And what about Q-commerce? You recently launched it in France. So maybe do you consider implementing it here in Poland, or maybe not? And if it's so, how would it work?
Okay, so our convenience business in Poland is a franchise. So I have two types of clients: a franchise partner and the final customer at the cash register. So in all of my activities, including e-commerce, we think about those two parties. And when it comes to the franchisors, as I mentioned, we are developing the possibility of ordering directly from hypermarkets. We have a network of 90 hypermarkets, 160 supermarkets, which can play a role of local logistic hub, which significantly shorten the delivery time and quick stock replenishment. So it can be said that hypermarket act as a dark store for a convenience store, and we offer them a quick commerce for our franchise partner. When it comes to the final customer, for sure, the quick commerce, in my opinion, primarily expand the base of the customer who use online orders. Although the purchasing mission is a little bit different than the classic grocery. We have the Carrefour convenience store are a little bit different than Żabka or 7-Eleven. But please keep in mind that except small traffic stores, we have also a number of 200 square meter stores playing a role of local proximity supermarket for our customer. And many of them do shopping for the next day or even for the whole week. And for them, an option of delivery of within 3 hours or 15 minutes might be interested or may not. So for sure, I believe there is a strong growth potential on the market. So the dynamically developing companies like Pyszne, Uber Eats, Bolt, Glovo are a perfect example of that the supply of the quick supply of the small shopping basket probably will develop in the near future. We are developing the sprint service in Poland, which is delivery within 3 hours, and which works quite nicely. And we observe the trend, and based on that, the decision will be made on the development of quick service delivery and in Poland too.
Okay, so Thomas Grayson, technology can support the convenience channel on many areas, and one of them is category management. So OmniStream devised the solution that supports shops' convenience channel, but not only convenience channel on this field. So what it is, if you could explain us, and how does it help retailers to manage categories?
That's a great question. I think, when I started in retail about 25, 30 years ago, category management was quite a new prospect. And I think over the years, especially as technology has advanced, category management has been evolving ever since. Lately, I think, we've been hearing a lot from the Category Management Association that Category Management 3.0 is just about to come out, which starts incorporating the omni-channel aspects of managing categories and managing retail operations. However, from our side, I think there are still aspects of category management which we believe we have been influencing in quite a heavy way. When you consider the sort of classical definitions of categories being destination, routine, seasonal, occasional, we believe that this is a relatively old way of looking at category management. The latest way of looking at category management with the solution that we've brought to the market is where you actually start thinking about individual SKUs as being destination, or as being traffic drivers, or as being profit drivers, or as being loyalty drivers, or basket drivers. We call this dispersion. And ultimately being able to make sure that those products are in stock and available whilst managing working capital considerations. This is the key to the future. And making sure that these SKUs differ from store to store in respect to the shopper needs and the particular shoppers that come to that store, again, is the key to how to drive profitable growth and maintain differentiation. So one of the things that we've been doing, and at the core of our solution, is to be able to help retailers deliver store-level assortment and planogram recommendations. We know that we were saying, like, for example, Adam was saying that a store in downtown Warsaw might differ to a store which might be somewhere else, not in downtown. But what we found in working with multiple retailers, both in very developed markets such as Singapore or the Netherlands, where we've worked with a customer there, or working with more developed nations such as Myanmar or Philippines is probably somewhere in the middle, but Myanmar or Vietnam is a very developing market. We find that even a store 50 meters away from another store, exactly the same store, both stores being in a very residential, high density area, can be very, very different. A very classic example is we took a convenience store in Vietnam. There were two stores right next to each other, 50 meters away. Both stores were at the bottom of 30-story apartment buildings. But what we saw, looking at the geographical locations of both of those stores and the things which were right next to those stores, one of the stores which was much closer to a school, a primary school, which was en route back to the apartment complex. Another store was closer to a mall, but the mall required people to go down a bigger escalator and spend quite a lot of time to actually find the products they need. And we transformed one of the stores to be a lot more impulse focused, a lot more ready to eat, and a lot more snacks and convenience products. Whereas the other store we transformed to more of a mini market format. We can tell you that both stores grew in sales by over 100% within 3 months. And this is the theory of store level ranging. Before we started working with this store, both stores were classified as within a cluster of residential. Both stores had the same size and both stores had the same assortment, and were quite stagnant when it came to their growth. And it's only when you start looking at the exact needs of the specific shoppers of that store, down to the GPS coordinate, who are able to assist them in driving that growth forward. Now, I realize that, and I can see one of the questions that's come from the audience is that logistic considerations are quite important.
Yeah, but we're going to talk about later, I think. So maybe we're gonna. Yeah, so maybe we're gonna answer it later when we come to the supply chain point. But that's the way we are moving to our next point, that is building the offer and category management in convenience store. And now I'd like to ask Victor Paterno. So, sir, how does 7-Eleven build its offer on the Philippines? On which aspect do you get the biggest do you get the biggest attention if it comes to the offer? Yeah.
Okay, I think historically the core part of our offer has been food service. The food service used to be about 25% of sales, and we had hot dogs, and we started with hot dogs and Slurpees, like other 7-Elevens, but expanded into chilled meals, lunch boxes, and during the pandemic, this has been challenged because meals at convenience stores are typically functions of out-of-home consumption, and people were at home. But that said, we also had the opportunity to partner with restaurant brands that we otherwise would not have been able to partner with, to co-brand our food because they needed to maintain customer awareness and reach their customers. So that's the core part. The second core part is again the services. We process quite a bit of the most cash to digital transactions happen through 7-Eleven. As far as category management, yes, we are moving to, as Thomas was saying, we believe the future is you have a category of a single SKU store pair.
Yeah, it's difficult, but yeah, that's the future. And Mr. Adam Manikowski, Żabka, building its offer, focuses on cooperation with producers to implement pilot products on your shelves. In one hand, from the other hand, you strongly develop your ready-to-eat offer of products. So does it allow you to differentiate from the market, or what's the plan for it? How do you build your position on the market? Thanks for these moves.
So, like in every retail business, you should differentiate through the assortment you sell, of course. But what we are focusing on is what I mentioned before on our customer shopping mission. Yes, and when we say about snacking mission, eating mission, or impulse shopping mission, this needs to be reflected in how we are managing our range, our assortment. So, as an example, only this year we introduced 1,000 new products. And also when I come back to technology, how we did this, the technology helps us to manage this and in a different format sizes. But this is extremely important. First of all, to have a special team. We have a new product development team focusing only on analyzing different customer segments, different store segments, and adapting the proper assortment. So our focus is to make sure that we adapt the assortment to the given segment of the store. So we have some stores where, for example, something which was very exotic sometimes ago, which are plant-based products, are right now, we are the only retailer in Poland with such a big offering of plant-based products. And there are store segments where it is one of the key drivers of sales for those stores. We have the stores where we have highly developed Żabka Cafe, which is based on, of course, hot dog, coffee, panini, different tastes, sandwiches, and this is what makes this kind of store segments different and creates our competitiveness. I think that the most important thing here is to make sure that you are able to see some future trends. It's extremely important to strengthen all your strengths, and to make sure that you have the proper supplier base and the close collaboration. We have products which none of the retailers has on the market because we created those products through the very close collaboration with the suppliers. But yes, that's true. It not only helps us to differentiate on the market, but we are making sure that we guarantee the great shopping experience for the customers. And we also make the customers loyal because we are able to sell which none of the competitors has on its shelves.
Krzysztof Łagowski, the good management of which categories is absolutely crucial for you? What's the biggest challenge to do it nowadays in pandemic time, in your opinion? How does it look like in Carrefour?
I think that agreeing with everything that has been said, so I would add that, of course, the strategic categories are drink, snacks, food to go offer. Critical are fruits and vegetables too. The optimal selection of the assortment is of key importance, so that the rotation of product is as high as possible. As currently financial liquidity is important for many store operators or store owners. So if the payment period is 14 days, so the product must be sold within 14 days, not a month or two. So this is, in my opinion, the name of the game when talking about the category management and assortment optimization. That this is my mantra. There are two sides of the business. I think that the final customer and also the store owners. I think so. The greatest challenge, in my opinion, today in the COVID time is not managing individual categories, but in strengthening the commercial concept and profitability as a whole. What I observe, this is it has been said. The classic offer of the impulse product with quite high prices is changing in favor of universal offer, quite often close to the proximity supermarket with plus fast gastronomy or food to go offer. From a customer perspective, convenience store chains are increasingly interested in regular visits by loyal customers to increase their shopping basket. This is what Adam said a few minutes ago. I think it clearly differs from the previous strategy, focus on traffic on customer on the way, characterized by impulse and low transaction activity. In my opinion, the last changes are observed in format. So currently, our convenience format are precisely adapt to the specificity of the given location. At the same time, we can observe regularity that the more market is, the greater variety of formats. So, in this time, I think that today this is what we are talking about. The convenience store is much more than location, speed, and price. So today the customer also expect the high quality offer, positive purchasing experience, and COVID security. So those are the issue we should also keep in mind when talking about the store concept, the purchasing mission, and so on.
Thomas Grayson, Thomas, you mentioned that the offer of shops can be different even if the stores are very similar and the distance between them is 500 meters. So maybe we can point out some similarities and differences, maybe some similarities if it comes to the for example, building offer in some kind of shops, maybe some similarities between, for example, densely populated areas of Philippines and big cities in Poland. Is there any similarity, or maybe this is totally different if it comes to the building an offer?
No, definitely. I think there's a lot of similarities and differences depending on the country. So, for example, in densely populated areas, if a convenience store is serving the local, let's call it residential community, that community, regardless of whether it's in the Philippines or whether it's in Poland, for example, will still look to that store to actually purchase goods, which might be more than just the snacking impulse occasion products. And again, as Adam mentioned, the mission of the shoppers in residential buildings will be very different when they go to convenience stores, especially in certain times of the day. Whereas, for example, coming back or during lunch times, if there is some sort of an office, even within the, let's call it close geographical proximity to that convenience store, the mission all of a sudden during a different time of the day changes because the shopper's mission changes due to their needs at that time. So this is quite the same, regardless of whether it's the Philippines or whether it's Poland. However, there can be very significant differences due to the specifics of the countries. In the Philippines, for example, there are a lot of call centers which are open 24 hours a day. And these call centers, again, the mission of the shoppers that come to these call centers, to the convenience stores located right next to the call centers, is going to be very different to anything that you might see in Poland, where those call centers don't really exist in that, in that quantity. Another really good example is Indonesia, where because Indonesia is a Muslim country, when you come to mosques to pray, the reality is it's very different. The behaviors are very different when you come to a Christian church to pray. So having a store right next to a mosque, actually they sell a lot, and by a lot, I mean 10x the amount of water, purified water, because they are asked to wash their face before going into prayer. So again, the convenience stores right next to a mosque have to have a very large presence of distilled water in order to help the consumers and the shoppers of those stores. So I think there are lots of differences in that regard. I can only imagine that just recently in Poland, for example, convenience stores which have been close to cemeteries had, again, very different seasonal needs compared to other countries like the Philippines or like Southeast Asia in general, where there's different habits and different behaviors and different needs from that shopper's point of view. But I think for me, going back to what has been said, and I could not agree more with some of the discussion points that were just made, especially by Krzysztof, where financial liquidity is such an important aspect to maintain, and taking into account frequency delivery, the payment terms, and making sure that that assortment is suitable in order to take into account all those aspects based on the particular location of that store is going to be one of the key aspects in order to make sure that all the KPIs are delivered.
So, gentlemen, in this way, we reach the point supply chain. I see our chat is very interesting in this subject. So, I'd like to ask Mr. Adam Manikowski. I know that you have to leave us earlier because of his duties. So, because of your duties. So, that's my last question to you, sir. So, how has the supply changed during the pandemic time, and can we see a big difference comparing it to the pre-pandemic time in convenience store, in your opinion?
I would say that we say retail is detail, but speed is everything, especially convenience. So the speed is kind of the foundation basics of Żabka success, because we wouldn't be able to open more than 1,000 stores per year if not the proper supply chain. Helping us to have the very high availability of the products on our shelves. It's on a level of 98%, which is almost, we have full availability for customers. But how we approach the supply chain, so we mentioned before the technology, and Victor also mentioned this, that in order to have the efficient supply chain, you need to invest in technology. When you look at the biggest failures of convenience retailers, it's mainly because of the supply chain. Because you really need to have very efficient supply chain in order to be able to invest those efficiencies for customers and for franchisees, which also Krzysztof mentioned, as we are working as a B2B2C business model. So efficient supply chain is the key enabler next to technology to successfully run convenience format stores. So where we are investing, it's on the one hand, it's the ongoing investment in a current network. On another hand, is the very long-term and precise plan, which is fully aligned with our expansion plan and which is fully aligned with the current network development, to make sure where we are opening the new distribution centers. Like one of the examples is that next year we are opening the most advanced and fully automated distribution center near Warsaw, which will be serving up to 3,500 stores, but also with a model, and all the network is tailor-made for our business model, which is helping us to carry and to be able to distribute the assortment which we need for the customers. So you wouldn't have this variety if you, for example, do not have the possibility to efficiently deliver singles, which in a normal distribution network is extremely is very expensive. Yes, if you have it adapted to the convenience business model, you can create this efficient supply chain, which helps you to increase the variety of the assortment in the stores through carry the this big display box, but where needed, just single products for those special customers to fulfill their special needs. So saying this, I would also like to add that part of the very important supply chain work is also the strong collaborations with the suppliers, yes, and the long-term, very close relations, because in the convenience business model, and it was mentioned a few times, for example, ready meals, quick meal solutions, this is the one of the most difficult assortment to manage from the distribution perspective. And for that, you need to end-to-end approach, starting from the suppliers, but finishing with the proper education and collaboration with the franchisees, who is finally ordering this product, and our job is to make sure it comes on time with the proper expiry date and with the proper quantities.
Sir, I cannot keep you longer, so I know that you have your duties. So thank you very much for joining us. Thank you for transferring your knowledge, and I wish you have a good day.
Thank you for your understanding. It was a pleasure. Thank you all. Bye-bye.
Thank you all. And we're back to our discussion. And my next question is to Mr. Victor Paterno about, of course, supply chain. So what are the biggest challenges of supply chain in Philippines? Is it a relevant problem to supply your shops on such a densely populated areas as Philippines?
The problem with the supply chain in the Philippines is, I think, one of manufacturers. The supply chain fill rate industry-wide in the Philippines is 75%. It's really low. Part of that is archipelago. Part of that is imported raw materials. So it's a challenge. And then you layer that with the complexities of a convenience store supply chain in an archipelago. Again, 13 DCs for 3,000 stores.
Yeah.
But again, it's That's why we're investing in the technology for our supply chain, because it gives us relative advantage. No? Let me talk a bit about why, for convenience stores especially, supply chain is super important. If you look at the US, 7-Eleven has 15,000 stores. It's like 12% of the market. Whereas in Asia, convenience stores are like two-player markets. Whereas the US is so fragmented. Why? In the US, they don't control their own distribution. They go through McLean. So everybody's on even ground. Whereas Asian model is very vertically integrated with distribution. If you don't have if you're a mom and pop shop in, let's say, 120 square meters, you can only carry about 500 items with direct-to-store delivery because they drop off caseloads. So you have that same shop now with a distribution center behind it with picking in singles, and you can carry 2,000. So who's going to win? Right. So yeah, super important. Convenience stores is all about singles distribution.
That's true.
Stores, yes.
Yes, that's true. And my question to Krzysztof Łagowski, sir, in Poland, we have the biggest challenge, I suppose, if it comes to the supply chain of small stores, is the lack of space for stocking the assortment. So how do you try to solve this problem at Carrefour?
Tricky one, but advanced analytics help us a lot. I mean, to the advanced analytics, we not only know exactly what we have in stock, but we are also able to predict how a specific product will sell in a given period of time, and how sales be affected by a promo action. So if we predict it well, we will know exactly what goods in what quantities and when should be in a given period of time link, and when should it be in a given link of supply chain, from contracting through delivery, central warehouse, logistics, and to the store shelf. So it obviously influence the optimization of the logistic processes and reduction of storage space in a convenience store. We are also working, implementing, let's say, the classical action. For example, for sure, higher network density helps to lower unit logistic cost, to optimize delivery schedule, delivery windows. As Adam said a few minutes ago, we also work with supplier that the increments are adjusted to the specifics of small shops. Otherwise, they may cause losses, for example.
So yeah, and Thomas, you wanted to answer some questions from the chat. I know, and the question was, let me give a sec, how to accept the diversity of the assortment in the different locations with the possibility of good logistic. Is it?
Yes, correct. It's a challenge. It's never easy, of course. And I think, I vouch for what has been said by, others speaking before me, but when it comes to convenience stores, the necessity for single unit deliveries from the warehouse are absolutely critical in order to be able to manage assortment, to be able to manage the fast turning of goods, and to be able to make sure that the right products end up in the right stores. I think one of the challenges, especially when it comes to countries such as the Philippines, where there is a high level of out of stocks at the warehouse level, is to make sure that products are, the next best offer becomes available and as quickly as possible to fill those shelves which may become empty due to warehouse out of stocks. And I think, so on one hand, there's that big opportunity to make sure that those empty shelves are filled with products which are the next best offer in order to make sure that the sales are maximized. But on the other hand, the requirement of making sure that those products are delivered and they don't cause too much operational disruptions have to be minimized. And this really is a case-by-case situation, which has to be evaluated quite carefully before making too many big decisions, because ultimately each retailer has a very different, operational supply chain, function, and the way that it functions differs from one retailer to another. So certain stores might get deliveries on a daily basis. The cost of capital or cost of human resources in order to be able to change that assortment on the shelves physically to do the relayouts can be costly in some markets, like for example, markets of Western Europe, Australia, or America, or Japan. Cost of labor there is extremely expensive. So minimal changes to the assortment have to be made. And so any big changes to the assortment cannot be made simply due to the fact that the benefits of those changes are outweighed by the cost of human resource cost required to make those changes physically on the shelf. So something that has to be taken into account is what that cost of labor is, how much operational disruption and how much time is required in order to actually make any changes in a store physically. And all of that has to be taken into account when a new range is recommended, when a new planogram is created. So if you imagine, us working with Victor in the Philippines, where we produce on average between 8,000 to 10,000 new planograms for 3,000 stores every week. Those planograms, very frequently, only maybe 2 or 3 products change in every planogram. And those changes are quite localized. And by that, I mean, we would never, move a product from one shelf and move it to a different location in order to fill space. However, so we make sure that those changes are, the churn rates, as we call them, they're very minimal to make sure that from a logistics point of view, from a supply chain point of view, we minimize any of those disruptions and the cost involved in actually bringing the change to the shopper. So I think, again, it's very much dependent on the retailer, very much dependent on the way that retailer operates, but those considerations have to be taken into account.
Gentlemen, I'd like you to touch one of our last points here in this discussion. I mean, rising costs of running business, because it affects very much FMCG and retail branch here in Poland, but not only in Poland, because the high inflation we have the high inflation rate in different countries. So my question to Victor Paterno, sir, Poland has to deal with the high inflation rate now. It's about food is going up 5% year to year, but I know that Philippines has the similar problem. So my question is, how does this situation impact on your product prices, and how would you like to stop it, to mitigate it? How do you try to stop it, to mitigate it?
Well, we've had high inflation environments before, largely driven by regulatory changes. Tobacco increased like 50% increase in pricing because of taxation. And then you had a sugar tax a few years ago, also like a 30% increase. And what I learned is we were very worried by both. But actually, what I've realized is retailers should like inflation as long as it's on items they sell. So fuel inflation, no, we don't like that. But because our your wages, your rentals, they're fixed, they're set already. So if you change the margin, if your margins stay constant and everybody raises, then you are ahead, and we have been. No? So it's a counter view. That said, for food service, like we're seeing having to raise prices on fried chicken. So, no, it's not good, because you're now looking at your competitors and saying who's going to raise prices.
Exactly.
Yeah. So it's a little different. It's a little different.
So my question to Krzysztof Łagowski about inflation and prices. So how do you try to look for the cost efficiency? Maybe do you put some pressure on your buyers to negotiate better deals or stuff like that? How it is in Carrefour? But turn your microphone, Krzysztof. Turn on your microphone.
I'm sorry. So here is the first moment I disagree with Victor, because in my opinion, if inflation is not good for anyone. Retail is likely to experience high prices rise most quickly as it is in the end of the supply chain. Retail prices accumulate increase in the prices of raw materials, production, transportation costs, electricity, labor, and etc. etc. So in Carrefour, we believe that in the current situation, those players who have well optimized logistic processes will be able to feel the real benefit of it right now. However, if someone has not prepared himself from this side, my experience through financial consequences. It has been said a few minutes ago. I will rephrase once again that I think that the logistic solutions are the clue of the future of retail right now. At some point, we will come to a stage where the purchase prices of a comparable products will be similar in all chains. So then the key factor for a retailer will be how he manages his logistic processes, because the more expensive this process is, so the higher prices will have to be offered at the shelf. So answering your question, so the improving internal efficiency, improving our logistic processes, using advanced technologies are in the key focus of our efforts right now.
Gentlemen, and that's the way we reach the last point of our discussion. I mean, the future of convenience channel, and I've got the same question to each one of you. So, what kind of lessons has convenience channel taken from the pandemic time, and what's the future of this channel from your point of view? What challenges will it need to face in the nearest future? So maybe let's start from Mr. Victor Paterno.
Okay. I think the Philippines had one of the harshest lockdowns. I think you'll see that. So we've learned that we have to meet more customer needs, especially the residential, where we under-index. And at the same time, services grew as bank branches closed. People went to our stores to digitize their cash. And coming out of the pandemic, I think the biggest single question is what habits will stick. Now, I think the pandemic is more or less over. The worst is over. But it's what habits will stick. And I think what you need is a very flexible, something that supply chain, assortment strategy, etc., that will adapt to the changed circumstances and to really meet more and more customer needs as those needs change. I do think that the future of convenience is much brighter than the future of larger formats. Digital will eat much larger into their shares than it will into convenience. And I think convenience, Christoph was talking earlier about, I think it was picking up hypermart goods from a convenience store. That makes a lot of sense. And we're kind of looking at, we right now sell from our main warehouse, which has 6,000 items, next day delivery, pickup at the convenience store. So I think this model makes a lot of sense where you hybrid.
Yeah, it's kind of similar solution. So Thomas, Grace in the future and challenges.
Look, I agree. I think if anything, the pandemic has taught us that change is inevitable and that the only thing that's constant is change, as the old saying goes. And I think being agile and being able to adapt to that ever growing level of change, especially that level of change when it comes to shopping behavior, I think is going to be very, very important for the success of convenience stores. I agree with Victor that convenience stores have a much brighter future versus large format stores, and that is a lot more of the future looking, forward, that small format stores are going to be the future. And, ultimately, I think that being able to serve the specific customer needs that every location in which a convenience store is in is going to be key. Only last thing that I would add, going back to that previous discussion on pricing, is that pricing is such an important factor. And when I think about the future, I think that the most successful retailers will become very much focused on both the assortment and the pricing, moving towards dynamic pricing, where pricing can even change depending on the time of day. So, of course, that requires a lot of investment in technology. It requires a lot of investment in supply chain, like Victor and everybody else has said. So I think the future is quite bright, but I think technology is what's going to really drive the successes of convenience stores.
Okay, the gentlemen, Victor and Christoph, I see you have a short conversation on our chat. So maybe would you like to do it live, or maybe would you like to do it after finishing our discussion on your private discussion? So this is the question. Let's make it earlier. And the last question to Christoph: the future and challenges for COVID for convenience channel if it comes to Carrefour and the whole market.
I would love to know the future, but it can be noticed based on our discussion that the role of the convenience store varies across the markets. But I believe that the convenience is in a strong position to benefit from a longer-term consumption trends, such as smaller households, growing disposable incomes, and more consumer shopping locally. About the trends, I believe that we as a convenience managers, we remain committed to expanding our store networks and moving into new non-traditional locations. I think that especially during that COVID time and post-COVID, with more consumers choosing to support local businesses and shop closer to where they live. I think the convenience stores in neighborhood area and suburbs areas will continue to play an important role. The trend number 2, I would call it as I think that the convenience and technology will continue to integrate further. The accessibility and the ease of shopping is in the heart of the convenience retail. So new ways of purchase, increased visibility of products, new ways for brands to interact with customers online, reaching new types of customer. It is, I think, what the technology needs to support us. As we discussed, we observe reduced amount of time shoppers spend in store. So technology needs to help us review in-store touch points. We are reinventing stores. So as Victor said at the beginning, historically tobacco, confectionery, and stuff like that has been the key footfall drivers for a convenience. Now the customer needs are more sophisticated, and there are much more different reasons to visit our stores, and we have to adapt those. And finally, I would call that we need to ensure healthy products are in our portfolio. I think people love snacks, but we have to give them an option to make healthier choices, and this is I think one of the area of Carrefour's strong competences with our quite rich offer of bio products and healthy products.
So this is our point. That was my last question. Gentlemen, thank you for your presence here today. I hope we touched the most important areas of convenience stores activity, and I'm sure that the knowledge that you shared with us here today will be very useful for our audience. So our guest, Victor Paterno, CEO 7-Eleven Philippines, Vice Chairman of the National Association of Convenience Stores. Thank you for this conversation, sir. Thomas Grayson, Vice President OmniStream. Thank you very much. Krzysztof Łagowski, Head of Convenience at Carrefour Poland. Thank you for this conversation. And Adam Manikowski, Managing Director, Żabka Polska, who had to leave us earlier. German, one word to the Polish viewers. Szanowni Państwo, bardzo dziękuję za udział w naszym dzisiejszym spotkaniu. Zaglądajcie Państwo na nasz portal www.wiadomościhandlowe.pl, tam więcej informacji o rzeczach, które robimy, o webinariach, które już w najbliższym czasie, także bądźcie Państwo z nami, a ja już dziękuję naszym gościom, Michał Kogoszkiewicz. Gentlemen, thank you for your presence and see you next time. Have a good day.